As CEO of Lifework Systems, I know that you, as business owners and senior executives, are concerned about the well-being of your organization. Your business is here to fulfill an important role in the community. And not only are you concerned about delivering quality products and services, you also carry the responsibility to make sure that your revenues are increasing, your people are fully engaged, and that you're creating the conditions that attract and keep top talent. This is an executive briefing on consciously creating a culture of excellence. Change is happening at the speed of imagination, often causing high levels of confusion and strain on individuals and organizations. One of your concerns is managing complexity and the advances in digital transformation technology. Today's solutions have to be mapped to equally agile workforce behaviors in which every team member in every role can both lead and follow dynamically with confidence in order to meet today's requirements for collaboration and fluidity to operate effectively in these agile technologies. It becomes your greatest opportunity to reconsider and overhaul existing human systems so that they're appropriate for the speed of change today. Many of you are using Agile and Scrum frameworks for your software development projects. Like the Agile development models that are in motion, our culture model focuses similarly on the importance of individuals and their interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over the importance of following a plan. Because similar to the Scrum frameworks, which replace a programmed algorithmic approach where one size fits all and there's these predetermined solutions, we replace that with a heuristic framework where people are capable of creating solutions on the fly because that's what's needed. So Lifework Systems manages human systems with respect for people and self-organization that's needed to deal with unpredictability and in solving complex problems. The old ways of understanding human systems are just not working anymore. The ways of superior versus inferior, our management versus employees. These can be seen in the uninterrupted struggles within people, and those show up in the form of undue stress, anxiety, and depression. And then also those struggles between people, which show up as righteousness, competition, scarcity thinking, negative behavior, and all forms of isms, including racism, ageism, sexism, and intergenerational gaps are a primary concern to business leaders. New systems are needed that promote high levels of emotional and social intelligence and personal responsibility. The glue that holds us together in the future must be based on trustworthy teamwork and collaboration through mentoring and mutual respect that expand human potential and through a human system framework that has been proven to bring about stability for these rapidly changing times. People are your greatest asset, and their capabilities to be fully engaged are not a nice to have, they're a need to have. Knowing how to offer them a compelling and uniquely supportive culture is key to attracting and keeping the best talent and building upon their strengths while expanding their human potential. As more and more businesses hire people across different time zones, different locations, working on multiple projects, and using various media, organizational design must evolve to accommodate a more fluid work stream. Matrix structures will replace linear hierarchies, and people will be measured on how well they collaborate with internal and external networks. So while managers are being hired on more of a project basis, this requires a greater emphasis on the ways needed for people to self-govern and effectively communicate. What once took decades now takes months or even days to create and implement. Just look at Uber and Lyft, overnight scalable sensations that surface so rapidly and globally that we're all reeling from the impacts, including things like tripled traffic in Manhattan, rapid declines in the taxi business, and the implications for the trucking industry, to name just some of the effects. Our lives are radically changing through digital transformation, globalization, and moving into the Internet of all things. Waning are the days of the phone book and the mall, but more importantly, we're losing former levels of personal and organizational identity. When we were fat and happy in old school organizations, we believed that we could investigate and understand the inner workings of everything and have control over them. In that phase, we brought about these unparalleled levels of prosperity and life expectancy for that era. And we did it through competition and command and control management and centralized authority. The problem with that is that most large organizations are still operating from those dynamics today, even though they're clearly no longer viable. Like cassette tapes and typewriters, these no longer serve us. We've outgrown them. The problem is that many leaders hold on to autocratic and extrinsically motivating approaches in competition with a death grip at the very time when our evolution calls for collaboration, mentoring, and the development of internal or intrinsic motivation. These are necessary to effectively respond to today's speed and scope of change. And until we overcome these old school ways of operating, we continue to have disengaged, insecure, paralyzed, and poorly functioning people. In fact, I assert that any transformation, performance, or productivity issue or crisis is a culture and leadership crisis. Emotional and social intelligence must be cultivated in order to favorably impact current and future trends when the only certainty you can count on is uncertainty. When automation and artificial intelligence and robotics replace traditional jobs, an organization where each person takes responsibility for their own purpose, their own values, and their own visions and becomes very competent at managing their relationships, their productivity, and their engagement, these are the only types of organizations that will remain stable despite all of the changes and the course corrections that will really need to occur very regularly. People will be required to move together to help the organization fulfill their purpose. And together, everyone benefits from this cohesiveness despite rapid change. I know this is a very wordy quote, but it is my new favorite quote. And I think it's because it's so crucial to whether your organization is going to remain effective and growing or whether it's going to stagnate. And that's this quote by Samuel Arbesman. Change blindness in the world of facts and knowledge is a problem. Sometimes we're exposed to new facts and simply filter them out. But more often, we have to go out of our way in order to learn something new. Our blindness is not a failure to see the new fact. It's a failure to see that the facts in our minds have the potential to be out of date at all. And I would say beyond out of date that they're even counterproductive. So I love this quote because I see so much information focusing on the trending right now, which is moving away from the command and control ways of running a culture to more of a shared power, decentralized authority, and self-governing. And yet, most organizations kind of look at those facts, see those success stories, and still have that idea in their head, well, that's great for them, but we're okay over here. And so they really don't have that determination to recognize what all of that means and how important it is for them to be decisive about going out of their way to do something different. And it comes from that denial that says, well, I can't see myself as irrelevant. I can't see my approaches as outdated. And that pride or that fear of being wrong is actually keeping many organizations stuck, keeping many organizations from moving forward into the future confidently and successfully. Einstein had it right when he said, if you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got. And I know people refer to this quote as the definition of insanity. And yet, that's what I think is so important to recognize around change blindness. If we don't recognize cause and effect between what kinds of decisions, conditions, and conversations we create and tie those to the effects of those, we'll keep doing that formula for insanity. So in this last couple of slides, you've heard me make mention of moving from one kind of culture to another, but I want to just share that really that's where I want to make the case for cause and effect. We have been using autocratic, power over, coercive types of structures with the intent of bringing the best out in people. But some of those control models have been being autocratic, dangling carrots in front of people in the form of incentives and bribing. We've also been using shaming and judgments, both favorable and unfavorable, to kind of get people to dance to our tune. We've also been doing things that don't look at all like control, but they actually are designed to try to get a certain outcome, and those include pampering and spoiling people. So we really hold a small view of people when we're creating those kinds of human systems, and they actually are proven to diminish internal motivation in people and to create a lot of disengagement in people. Again, I quote Einstein. He also said this quote, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." And that's why it's so key that people understand the difference between control-based operations, control-based culture models, and responsibility-based culture models. So the very systems that we have been relying on for centuries now to get the results we want are no longer the thinking we want to use to overcome those problems. So a lot of people don't really make that connection that the control models themselves are causing the lack of self-control within their people. So what does this mean to your organization? It means that as the leader and the executive team of an organization, you want to consider other models than what has been traditional up to this time. The new culture model must be based on trustworthiness. It must be based on emotional and social intelligence and social interest, which is caring about what our behaviors cause to others. So it's kind of a celebration of people's personal power and personal responsibility, and making sure that they're using that power and responsibility to be in service as opposed to being greedy for self-interest. And this one is a hard one for people to picture, just like it was once hard for us to imagine having cell phones. How do you distribute those skills from the CEO to the janitor? How do you make sure everybody gets that knowledge, which is power? And how do you help an entire community to develop internal motivation and personal responsibility? So that is the new culture model, and many people don't even know that they don't know that that's important. So they're very blind. It's a blind spot for them to understand that they need a new model altogether. And they have a hard time imagining what that new model looks like. I'm going to end this executive briefing with 3 small videos. The first is from an organization that went through a culture transformation, and it's speaking on the importance of giving everyone the same kind of tools, concepts, and practices as the senior team and the executives. What is typically done in organizations is that it's only those people that receive that leadership development training and coaching and ongoing mentoring. In reality, what's really important is that everyone have that information and those practices simultaneously as an entire community.
It's hard to measure the efficiency that we've gained from having a common set of tools, but I know that it's saving us time in meetings, troubleshooting issues quicker.
I really think it's super important that everyone's included in there and the process and the teachings, mentoring sessions.
We can prompt each other for gaps. If we start to go along a tool and somebody says, "Oh, will you do it this way?" or "You forgot that piece," or "That was perfect," and we can support each other. And there's no secrets at all. It's all out there. There's nobody that's the keeper of the knowledge, or you don't have to get to the next level. Everybody's included. It's more equal that way.
If everybody knows what we're working on doing, then they understand that we're trying to improve them, number one. And not only that, they understand when I say something, there's a framework and a language that I can use that we have a common understanding of.
The next video is an example of what the end game looks like. When you have an entire workforce who is owning the culture model and is taking responsibility for the employee hiring, their orientation, taking them through the culture change training online modules, the group review sessions, the mentoring sessions, and it becomes this self-perpetuating culture model that everyone in the environment is responsible for.
The employee leader is any employee who has completed that at least that first 12 months. An orientation candidate is simply a person who starts in January or comes in after January and is going to be onboarded. And an employee leader could be also an orientation candidate. Some of you guys did that. In your first year on board, you also stepped up to the plate and said, I want to teach it while I'm learning it.
That way we can kind of both
Jump in.
interject at the same time.
Do you find that you're getting good response to this process that you're doing?
Yeah, the response and just the class, just everyone participating was good. We sit down, we go through it, kind of rough draft, then we go through it one more time to kind of finalize what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
And then we actually go through the modules and role play what we're going to say. And
You do this with a co-partner?
and they actually will look through it ahead of time and maybe make a point, hey, we need to talk about this key point a little more.
Yeah.
You didn't bring your binder with you. What was your reason for that?
Okay, that's not going to help.
What can you do in the future to make sure that
You're heading the right way, but what future are you talking about?
the next time we meet?
Too long. So do you guys see, I want you guys to see this because this could become an ongoing cycle. Did you bring your It Just Got Real form and have it filled out?
No, it didn't.
Okay, so what I want you to do that by Friday. Like this is Wednesday, and I'd like you to do that by Friday, and make sure that you get a copy to me. Are you willing to do that?
Yes.
I have an answer here, but I want to hear what you guys think.
I don't see how it's different than any other issue that they would be having, whether it's with management or without. So one of the things we talk about is when you have an issue with somebody, that you talk about the issue and not really focus on the person.
Right.
And so then you can really focus on the issue and then work through the issue itself.
How to resolve it, correct? Yes.
Something you learn it so much more than when you're just on the receiving end of it. And imagine if Erin was trying to do this without your help. It would be insane. She wouldn't be able to do it. And imagine how good it will feel when you guys get to the day where you can mentor Erin if she needs it. Because this isn't about I'm above you and I know more than you. This is about I'm here to support you and make sure you're well onboarded and you're well tooled. And then it's all about helping each other. So don't even hold yourself in this box of I'm only an employee leader to this person. And even if they hire somebody here that's higher on the chain, from title, you can still mentor them.
How it impacts everybody as a whole, and the best way I learn something is teaching something. So it just makes it more immersive, and rather than receiving it, I'm also giving.
And then the very last video that you'll see is the perspective of a CEO who turned around multiple multi-million-dollar debt in 3 different hospitals. And the last one, he turned around over $30 million. But what he found was that because he didn't have a systems approach that was effective in transferring responsibility to everyone on the team, he wasn't able to sustain the positive changes. Every time he would leave one of those hospital systems, his hard work would reverse. And so that is the final video, which is just offering a perspective of someone who has been through it all.
Employees are attracted to your organization because of the work environment that you create for them. People leave organizations for a variety of reasons, but the majority of the time it's because of their work environment and the relationship with their immediate supervisor. And what having a system in place does is allows everyone to know how to behave, how to act, and how to interact. And one of the things that I truly believe is that we don't fully understand the impact financially on our companies for not having a great work environment. And I believe that that great work environment relates to the relationships of employees to each other and the employees to the client. How much better would your organization be financially if your turnover rate was half of what it is today? How much better would your organization be financially if you had lower sick time? People call in sick for a variety of reasons, but in an organization where you really have a top-notch work environment, they don't call in sick because they know the impact that will have on their fellow coworker. And I had been in some organizations where I've made some of those changes, but it really didn't have the formal process in place to really understand that and communicate it to each and every employee in the organization. And if I had, I know my organizations would have done even better financially.